So I will go out on a limb here and say that anything that you're going to put on an online marketing, on any online platform, should at least have a little bit of SEO involved.
This episode is sponsored by Therapy Notes, therapynotes.com. Be sure and check them out, and be sure and use the promo code Gordon, Gordon, and you can try them out for 2 months for free. Over 15 years ago, when I started my private practice, I had to learn a lot, and most of it the hard way, and I don't think you need to do the same. Hi, I'm Gordon Brewer, a licensed psychotherapist, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. Join me in this journey of discovery as we have conversations with other leaders and professionals in both the mental and allied health fields. Join us as we explore both the business and clinical sides of running a private practice. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is episode number 317 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. I'm Gordon Brewer, and so glad you've joined me, and hope you are having a good February so far. And as this particular episode is coming out, it's the week of Valentine's. So happy Valentine's. Hope you're surrounded by those you love, which is what Valentine's is about. So anyway, glad you're with me, and if this is your first time listening to the podcast, hope you'll take time to follow us and or subscribe to the podcast. Also, leave us a review if you haven't done so already, and rank us. That just helps us keep us up in the rankings and helps other people find us as well. So looking forward to you hearing from my guest for this episode, Ashley Darnall. And Ashley is a licensed social worker, and she's in the state of Louisiana. But she and I talk about SEO, search engine optimization, and the things that she has learned over the years about helping get your website out there and in front of more people. I think I've covered this topic a good bit before, but I think it's a good review, particularly for those of you that might just be getting started in private practice, of being able to kind of learn some of the basics around how you make your website noticed. And also we delve into talking about copywriting and the importance of that and being able to identify your niche. So again, stuff we've covered on the podcast in the past, but I think it's always good to get a fresh perspective and hear it in other ways. And I know for me, a lot of times when I hear things that maybe I know or know about, but hear it in a different way, it just resonates differently. I know that's been the case for me over the years, and just particularly things that I get excited about. So we'll get to my interview with Ashley here in just a moment. But one of the things I'd love for you to do is go over to the website and just click on Consult with Me. One of the things that I'm getting back into this year is really connecting with people more on a more personal level, and also just being able to learn from each other. I get emails every week of people that are asking about doing consulting with me. And yes, I do consulting with people, individual consulting, but also I'm putting together, I've had these in the past, but I'm putting together a new format for I've referred to them as focus groups, mastermind groups. I'm trying to think of a good name. What I'm landing on is the Practice of Therapy Collaborative, which will be a membership community that people can join. And we'll plan to meet in some form or fashion every week. And that's a little bit new for me, but I feel like that is something that's just going to add more value of people having access to either talking with me or other consultants or other people that are experts in the field, and having a little more structure to it. Shout out to my good friend Whitney Owens, who is at the Wise Practice podcast, but also the Wise Practice Consulting. And I'm kind of borrowing from her format of having a week of office hours and then another week of learning, another week of hearing from other experts, and a week of doing some work. So that's kind of the format I've got in mind. But if you'll go over to practiceoftherapy.com/consulting, I'm going to have that link up here soon. You can see the different ways in which you can connect with me and maybe begin working with me either one-on-one or in the context of a membership community. So anyway, be sure and check that out. And also, before we get to our my conversation with Ashley, I'd love for you to hear from one of the members of the Psychcraft Network, along with a word from our sponsor, Therapy Notes.
Hi there. I'm super excited to welcome you back to the brand new season of Scaling Therapy Practice podcast. This is the show where we encourage you to take deliberate steps towards sustainable growth. I'm your host, James Marland. In season 2, we're specifically focused on one main topic: marketing for mental health providers. Every week, we're going to share about different parts of marketing, giving you simple tips and tricks to grow your mental health business. Every episode from season 2 will have a download or a handout from the show. So sign up for our newsletter so you don't miss these valuable resources. Good news, I'm not going to be doing the show alone. I've got some awesome friends who are going to be joining me from the Psychcraft Network. You're going to hear from Lisa Mustard, Steve Bisson, Dawn Gabriel, and other special guests. We've joined forces for this season to share helpful advice on things we've learned and even the mistakes we've made so that you don't have to make them. As the weeks go by, listen to us cover lots of topics on marketing, such as social media, how to market your own therapist, how to speak in public, and even how to start your own podcast or even just guest on podcast shows. We really want to hear from our listeners, so send us your questions, your comments, your thoughts to james@coursecreationstudio.com. That's james@coursecreationstudio.com. Make sure you check out season 1, which is out now, and it has lots of tips on scaling your therapy practice. Just go to coursecreationstudio.com and click the podcast section. So join us every Monday. We're going to learn a lot about intentional and sustainable growth for your therapy practice.
Have you ever wished your private practice could run as smoothly as a well-oiled machine? Well, look no further, because Therapy Notes is here to revolutionize your practice. Therapy Notes is the complete practice management system you've been dreaming of. With everything you need to manage patient records, schedule appointments, meet with clients remotely, create rich documentation, and handle insurance billing, it's your secret weapon for a smoother practice. And the best part? It's accessible wherever and whenever you need it. Yep, even on the go. Imagine having more time for what truly matters, your clients. It's like having an extra set of hands, but digital. And here's the kicker. It's the very EHR Gordon relies on in his own practice. So, you know it's the real deal. Say goodbye to paperwork nightmares and hello to more time and better quality care. Check out Therapy Notes today at practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. Oh, and don't forget to use the promo code GORDON to get 2 months free. That's practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes with the promo code GORDON. Enjoy the show.
Well, welcome everyone again to the podcast, and glad for you to get to know today Ashley Darnall. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes, and Ashley and we were chatting a little bit ahead of time, and I think this is a topic that I've covered a few times on the podcast, but maybe not at this kind of angle, but just we're going to be talking about just SEO and things that you need to keep in mind with your website that I think probably get overlooked by people, or maybe they make some wrong assumptions. But Ashley, as I start with everyone, tell folks a little bit more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed.
Yeah. So I am a licensed clinical social worker in Louisiana and have, in my clinical backgrounds, have done the whole gamut of practice. I have done inpatient, outpatient, kids, adults, been in the insurance world as well as in some medical practices. So I've had a whole bunch of clinical background as a therapist. I am also a mental health copywriter. So was I've always enjoyed writing. Writing's always been a huge outlet for me, and stumbled across a copywriting course a few years ago and figured it was really just a great avenue for me to be able to combine my love of mental health and writing, and to be able to do something that I could also make a business out of and help therapists. So what I do through my business, I help therapists with any of the writing that goes on their online marketing platforms. So I know that a lot of people don't even know what copywriting is. Honestly, I didn't really before I started. So I like to say just the words that go on any online platform. So whether that's your website, could be your social media, email marketing, anything that's going to go online, I help therapists craft those words. And along with that comes the SEO piece, which we will get into, because anything that goes online is going to be run through search engines. So that's what I get to do on the day to day. When I first started, really thought I would be doing more things like helping therapists write blogs about depression and anxiety. And, as a clinician, obviously I know how to come from all angles. So you're not going to just hire a regular marketing professional, hire someone who actually knows the ins and outs of the field. However, that was not the need of most of my clients. Everybody really needed the support with mostly websites. And so that's kind of where I've landed as far as my expertise goes.
Do you get into doing much of the actual back-end designing of websites, or just mainly with the copywriting?
I do the design as well. I have some full packages that I offer. Now, here's the thing, right? We oftentimes as therapists, and myself included, don't come from a whole wealth of resources. And so just from doing a lot of websites myself, I do have the ability to do the design. I mostly specialize in Squarespace websites, very user-friendly and easy to set up therapists for success with later on. So I will help them with the full-on package. Also, I will partner with graphic designers as well. It depends on what my client's preference is. So they're a little more on the budget-friendly side. They might go with me instead of having to hire two different parties to get the whole set up.
Yeah.
But yes, I do.
Yeah, it's been interesting here lately. I've been doing some work on the Practice of Therapy website, just changing some things around, some minor tweaks, but you don't really, I think the thing, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, is we have to really think about the user experience as far as how the people that are searching for us and that sort of thing, how they perceive us on the, when the website comes up. And so really thinking about that whole piece. Well, one of the things that I think is always a good review, and you can really speak to this, Ashley, or in working with people, what are some of the common, I guess, mistakes you see them make with their website that they can probably easily correct?
Sure. So I think you just brought up a really prime time example, is the user experience. So we talk about the foundation, I guess, of SEO would be keywords. And so the thing is that you want to, let's say let me make this more clear. The first mistake I would say is that therapists often, you're trying to start your private practice. And let me just normalize something to begin with. We, self included as a clinician, we weren't taught this stuff in school.
Right.
We were taught we were taught how to sit in a therapy room with someone who has gone through severe trauma, and we know how to navigate that situation. But when it comes to forming a business, at least my education, and I went to some wonderful schools, it was very lacking. A lot of us you don't even know how to form an LLC, how to open a business bank account, how to make sure you're following all your ethical regulations and legal regulations, and how to budget and how to market. And so that's just a experience across the board that many therapists go through when they're starting a private practice. And you go out on a limb, you're going on working by yourself, and you're like, oh man, I have to get this website set up. I need to have a virtual website. It's 2023. We got to have a place where people can land. And so I think oftentimes many therapists are just so ready to get a website up, they don't do the back end work prior to getting that website set up. So that would be not looking at things like, what is your ideal client? Who is your ideal client? What presenting problems fuel you? When you leave a session and you feel so like, oh man, this is why I do what I do. Who is that specific type of client? So before I'm going to do any website copywriting for a therapist, I want to get into a little bit of that branding. I'm not going to say like, I'm going to develop an entire branding package with you. But if I'm going to be writing your website copy, I have to know, who are we writing to, and who are those specific people that you want to land on your website, that you want to speak to them. And so I think that would be maybe the first common mistake, is that you just kind of get something out there and you really didn't, you're kind of just writing to whoever, and you're just talking about yourself instead of necessarily talking to your ideal client, which is kind of what you were just saying, right? Is that user experience. What are people landing on your page? And to finish that, I'll say, here's the 2 core questions that I'll pose to my therapist. And I'll say, all people want to know when they come to your website is, number 1, can they trust you? So can I trust you? They want to know that you are who you say you are, that you are genuine, that you're not a scam, a fraud, whatnot. And number 2, can you help me? So can you actually do you actually know what I'm going through? Can you actually give me the tools and resources I need to get through? So I would say that would be one of the most foundational mistakes that happens when you're just trying to get your practice up and running. You need to just get a website out there. It's not really thinking about that ideal client audience and really writing the words on your website to speak to them.
Right. One of the ways I've heard it kind of put, and it might have been through Donald Miller's story brand framework, which I, just a quick note here to anybody that's listening, if you haven't read that book or looked at his stuff, it's well worth it to be able to get your head around marketing and just thinking about how people on the receiving end, what really resonates with them. But one of the things that they talk about is being able to write in a way that lets people see the transformation. In other words, absolutely. That what it's like now and what it's going to be like in the future. If they, how, like you said, how you can help. And it's not the about page on a website isn't about the therapist, it's about the client. And so that's
another major mistake that often gets made.
Right. You want to say a little more about that?
Yeah. So we are so used to writing academically, and we write all these research papers, and you get out of grad school and you're just in that mindset, and we're all very educated, intelligent people. But the thing is, you really have to take a step back, and you're just writing like you're talking to someone. So you're writing conversationally, you're using words like I and you. So I really like to emphasize to use the word you, like you're speaking to, if Donna is your ideal client audience, you're speaking to Donna. I've just pulled a name out of the back of my head. But so really writing to a specific person, and you're not going to write something like you would in a professional bio. So that's a lot of people on their about page they'll just kind of copy and paste their professional bio that they had maybe on a group practice website. Yeah. So it'll be Ashley Darnall, LCSW from Louisiana, specializes in EMDR, PTSD, CBT, DBT. And so you're using first of all these acronyms that we know what they mean as therapists, but people coming here don't like that, CBT, DBT, EMDR, that could,
Mm-hmm.
who knows
Mm-hmm.
what that means to someone
Right.
else. To us, it might
Uh-huh.
seem second nature. So using words and speaking, I mean, I like to write on a 6th grade reading level,
Mm-hmm.
making sure you are, number one, always writing to your ideal client and writing in a way that's conversational, easy to read, not in long paragraphs, not complex sentences. Oftentimes, if I find myself stuck, here's just a quick tidbit. If I find myself stuck and don't know, you're just staring at a blank screen, which happens a lot to my clients who are trying to write their own copy, is Google Docs has a voice record feature. Just put on the voice record and record yourself talking about it, and then you can go back and edit. And so it actually helps you to write in a tone of voice that's actually more conversational rather than so academic. So, Ashley
Yeah.
Darnall is a licensed clinical social worker.
Right. Right. Yeah. And one thing and this is going to come up because of just the age we live in, as using AI, things like Chat GPT and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, I've found can help me with things like putting it in a different writing in like a second person voice
Right.
versus first person and third person, and
Mm-hmm.
also changing it from a higher level of communication to, like you said, the 6th grade reading level. So that's
Absolutely.
so not that I'm saying it's just a tool that's there that's pretty amazing in that sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you
Yeah.
give the AI software something good to work with, so if
Yeah.
you give them a good foundation, if you yourself if you just need some editing, you need this to sound better, often I'll be like, I wrote this in it, and I just can't get it to sound right. Put in the
Right.
sentence, make this sound better. Literally, that's what
Yeah.
I'll say. And it
Yeah.
will come up with something that makes it sound better. So just
Yeah.
turn it around the words some way. It's your
Right.
words, but you're
Yeah.
just using the tool,
Right.
as I'm in a course now, and they just say it's a good personal assistant. So
Yes. Yes.
a
And it's
personal,
not, I don't think it should be. I think one thing people need to understand is don't just plug something into AI and just take exactly what they give you back. You need to go back
right.
and edit it and tweak it and make it yours and more person friendly to some degree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the other things that this kind of, I think it leads us to, Ashley, is just thinking about SEO and keywords and all of that sort of thing. So say some more about that and how all this ties in to the
Yes.
copywriting piece.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I will go out on a limb here and say that anything that you're going to put on an online marketing, on any online platform, should at least have a little bit of SEO involved. They're even saying that your Instagram post, and that's a whole nother beast that we won't get into.
Mm-hmm.
But that even things like your Google business profile should be optimized for a search engine. So let's break it down a little bit. So people get afraid of the phrase SEO. It is just I think sends
Mm-hmm.
chills down people's spine, much like the word marketing does as well, I think.
Yeah.
So in a simple way, what I like to say is SEO, search engine optimization. So it's just the process of getting your website found by people who are searching on Google. So increasing the organic traffic to your website. So there's a few key principles that if you start to develop, it will increase the chances of your website getting found on search engines. So like to teach it. I do a lot of education. Just, if I'm going to write for you, I really want my therapist to be set up for success and be able to have them have the tools to be able to implement some of these things on their own going forward. So I like to kind of teach it in there's four key elements to the foundation of SEO. So that would be keywords, strategic copywriting, and then on-page and off-page SEO. So starting with keywords, this is going to be the foundation of anything that you do related to search engine optimization. So here is where you really want to get into your ideal client's head. So it comes back to this. User intent. So when somebody is going to be looking for your practice on Google, what are they going to be looking for? Are they going to be searching? Typically, it's things like anxiety therapist, Texas, or trauma therapy Texas or addiction therapist Texas. So you're going to use a lot of some location specific ideas, as well as your either your population you work with or presenting problem. It could just be like even things like I need help with anxiety. That would be like a long tail keyword is what we would call it. Or how can anxiety therapy help me? Things like that. So first is going to be whatever the person, your user, is typing in the Google search bar to find you, that's your keyword.
Yeah.
So you can use even just you type something in on Google, anxiety therapist in Texas, scroll all the way down to the bottom, look at the related searches, and it'll really give you some good ideas on what are actually people looking for. Here's some related key terms that people are looking for when they would actually come to my practice website. So that's kind of the first step, is finding the keywords that you want to target, that people are looking for, and that you want to target on your website.
Yeah. Yeah. One quick tip that I've used sometimes is with your current clients, is asking them how they found you. And if they say, well, I just did an internet search, you could say, okay, what did you type in to find us? And how hard did you have to search to get to where we are, kind of things. Right. And so that's a real kind of low tech way of trying to find out some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Always ask where your clients found you.
Oh, yes. And so, so with all of that, it's really a matter of kind of getting into the head of your ideal client and just thinking about kind of the language they use to describe what is going on with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That user intent is key. And so often, I think we just get so stuck in our own heads, and we're so worried about getting all the things that we need to get set up for our practice that we kind of forget that key step of trying to figure out what the other side is going to be looking for.
Right.
So, that's kind of the foundation of SEO is understanding keywords.
Yes. So what else do you think of when you think of being found on the internet, as far as like that related to SEO?
Yeah. So I guess I can get into a little bit to the other three elements besides keywords would be the strategic copywriting. So that is taking the keywords a step further. So it's going to be placing those keywords in strategic places. So throughout your web pages, in your headers, in your in your meta descriptions, which we can talk about, in your title tags, in your alt text, optimizing your images, your site speed, making it mobile friendly. And this is all assuming as well that you have a visually pleasing website. When somebody comes to it, there's not blatant errors, typos, sentences that look like they don't fit on the page, that it is, an actually visually pleasing website. But it definitely goes beyond that. There are, we can get into a whole bunch of technical things, but you can talk about backlinks and how important it is to have credible websites that also link to your page so that the search engines know that you're legitimate. It's all about getting the search engines to say, hey, yes, this person, their website is a subject matter expert on, say, the subject of anxiety therapy, if we're going on that track, that Google would want to showcase you as, a practice that helps people with anxiety. So another key part is blogging. Which also scares people. It is a scary topic. And I guess the idea of having to write regular content can be very overwhelming, but that is another really key way. And we can call it articles, we can call it blogging. Posting regular updated content to your website is the way that you are telling the search engines that, hey, I'm legitimate. I'm here to help people with whatever it is that you focus on helping people with.
Yes. Well, and I think these are, in the time that I've been doing all of this stuff, I remember way back when I first put up my first website, and having to learn all of this stuff, after a while, I think if you play around with it, you really kind of begin to think about it in that way, and it becomes much easier as far as thinking about the keywords and just maybe the different systems or different processes really that you put in place when you think about improving your website and doing all of those things, particularly blogging.
Right.
What is it, figuring out what is it that people are looking for? What is it that people are doing to make their websites better?
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's what I think. I think it is just an overwhelming topic, and people if you don't have a technical background, and most of us don't, I would assume that it is something that we can get kind of analysis paralysis. There's so much out there on the internet. Where do you even begin?
Right.
And so just finding, a good resource that you trust, sticking to the foundational principles, really, you can get incredibly technical, but if you really you can have a good, well-performing website if you just stick to the foundations. Now, there is a little learning curve, as with anything, but if if you're willing to spend a little bit of time and learn the foundations, like you said, once you can implement them in all other avenues of your digital marketing aspects. So once you learn the basics, and once I work with my clients one-on-one, they're like, oh, okay, it's not as scary as I thought it was. It actually does make sense. Okay, I can do this,
right.
Kind of giving them the ability to be like, yeah, actually, this is something I do. And I don't need to pay someone monthly to do this if I have the ability to just do these small steps on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah. So I know I've got to be respectful of your time, Ashley, but maybe real quickly, what are some of your go-to tools for helping you with everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with keywords, using just the basic Google search, like I said, scrolling down to the related key terms. There is also, through Google Ads, there's a Google Keyword Planner, which is completely free. All of these are free that you can use. Also, Uber Suggest is another keyword research tool. You can plug it in and it'll tell you, related keywords, keyword frequency, how much competition there is related to that keyword. When it comes to writing good copy, being sure to use a plugin like Grammarly, which will just check for your grammar, make sure you're writing an active voice. I like to use this program called Hemingway Editor. It tells you the reading level. It tells you if there's hard to read sentences, things like that. That's just a good one. Always, as always, running it through a plagiarism checker, because you don't want to make sure that you have duplicated content either by accident or we're going to assume it's not intentional. So it's called QText is the software I like to use for a plagiarism checker. And let's see, for running an SEO audit, if you wanted to just kind of get a baseline, plug in your website and get kind of a baseline of how your website is doing, there's a website called Uber Suggest, which you get, I think, 3 free searches a day. So you can put in your website and it won't let you go into too much detail, but it'll give you a good foundation of how your website is performing as is, just to kind of get a baseline before you were to do any SEO work on it. So that's called Uber Suggest.
Wow, this is great stuff. Well, Ashley, tell folks how they can get in touch with you if they want to find out more about what you do and maybe talk about how you can help them.
Sure. Yeah. You can go to my website, copywithashley.com. Also on Instagram, like to post lots of good free resources on Instagram. I have a SEO checklist you could download, as well as some things to help with your Psychology Today profile, just anything that you're going to be writing. I have a couple of free resources for you. But yeah, and either email or website, ashley@copywithashley.com is my email. So I'm here. Yeah, this was great.
Awesome. Well, we'll have links in the show notes and the show summary so people can get to that quickly. Well, Ashley, I really appreciate this, and I hope to have you back sometime. Well, big thanks to Ashley for being on the podcast. And I hope you found this helpful and maybe giving you some things to think about, particularly around copywriting and how to write in such a way that helps you reach those folks that are looking for your help, and being able to kind of resonate with people on a more personal and I guess simple level. I think a lot of times, particularly in graduate school, as we kind of talked about, we kind of get taught to write and write in this kind of academic language, but that just does not resonate with most people. So be sure to check out Ashley's things, copywithashley.com, and also on Instagram. And again, we'll have links here in the show notes and the show summary for you to find those easily. And again, big thanks to Ashley for being on the podcast and us covering this topic again. So also, as I mentioned, if you're interested in working with me, doing some consulting, either on an individual basis or in the context of a group or a membership community, be sure and go over to practiceoftherapy.com/consulting and find out the different ways that you can do that. I'm putting together the new Practice of Therapy Collaborative, which is going to be a membership community. If you belong to my email list, be looking out for more information about that. I'm just kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit here in this particular episode, but be sure and check it out. And also, be sure and check out our sponsor of the podcast, Therapy Notes. They are the leading electronic health record system for mental health providers. They're who I use in my practice, and I'm always impressed with all the things that they are constantly improving and changing and just adding to what their platform. It's such a great value for the money. And if you want to try them out for 2 months for free, be sure and use the promo code, just Gordon, Gordon, when you go to practiceoftherapy.com/therapy notes, or you can just go to therapynotes.com. Either way will get you there, and let them know that you heard about them here on this podcast. And if you ever have any questions about my experience with them and using their platform, I'm happy to talk with you about that. Like I've said before, it's a service that I can get behind. It's what I use in my practice and couldn't work without them. So that's it for this particular episode. Looking forward to being with you in future episodes. Again, got a lot of great guests lined up, and looking forward to what the rest of February brings. So take care, folks, and have a great rest of your week or weekend. You've been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. You can find out more about the other great podcasts in the network by visiting psychcraftnetwork.com. And if you haven't done so already, please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com and get your free private practice startup guide, along with a lot of other great resources and webinars and free things just by visiting. Also, be sure to follow us wherever you might be listening to your podcasts. This podcast is intended to be educational in purpose and is not intended to give legal, accounting, or counseling advice. If you need a professional, find the right person for that.